book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I am here today to do the TBR tag. So this tag was created by a blog known as A Perfection called Books. I will leave their original blog post down in the description so you can check them out. Right now, I'm just gonna crack a cold one open with the books. Oh boy, that's really good. I'm ready to take on the world. So long story short, if some of you guys could tell or not tell or have actually been keeping up with my channel, even though I don't post frequently, one of my last videos I did mention that I moved out of home, or at least I was moving out at the time that I was filming that video. But yes, I moved out of home, which means I currently have less books in my possession. However, my TBR has stayed the same. I will talk about that more as this video goes on. So I guess without further ado, I'm gonna get started with the tag. Alright, so question number one for this tag is, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? And my answer to that is Goodreads, even though I have not been good with it lately, and I think one of these weekends, or at least it might take a self-quarantine to actually get me to do it. I think I will actually update my Goodreads as to what books I've read in the year, my reading challenge, as well as what books I no longer have on my TBR and I no longer want on my TBR, and some books that I've added onto my TBR. Essentially, there have been a lot of books that I've taken away from my TBR and I've added to my TBR. Well, not really that many books that I've added to my TBR. I haven't been book buying for the last year, to be honest, and I am only just finding interest in books again after what has been going on. Not too many books I have actually added to my TBR physically or even mentally. Like, there hasn't been that many books I've been excited about. However, I'm getting back into the habit. Therefore, there are books that I definitely do want to add to my TBR. Just not as many as I used to want to, you know? One of these days, I'm gonna go back onto Goodreads, and the day that I finally return to Goodreads and I update my Goodreads, I will send out a tweet about it so the people who are curious in my reading habits will finally be satisfied. So many people want to know what I am reading, and it makes sense because some of the people who watch me trust my recommendations. Totally understandable why you would want to track my reading progress, as well as the fact that I also want to track my reading progress. I just haven't been lately, so I apologize to those people. However, I will have it under control soon. It might just take me self-quarantine to do that.
Joke's on me, I got forced into self-quarantine.
Question number two is your TBR mostly print or ebook? My answer to that would have to be print, but also audiobook. As you guys can tell, I only have 2 bookshelves behind me. Ever since life got that way, it has been hard, but then it's also been easy and convenient because I had to move apartments twice within a month. In all honesty, that was very intense, and yeah, life was just running a million miles per hour. And even though this looks like a little amount of books, it's still a lot. I didn't realize how many books I actually owned before I left home, and yes, I left a lot of my TBR and read favorite books behind. That being said, all of them are in storage at home, and one day when I get my own place, I'll have a full library. Even though there is a fair amount of books in storage at the moment, I won't really keep forever. I probably go through them one day if I ever get a chance to go back home and go through them, but I'm honestly so thankful that my parents are letting me store those books at the moment for the day I move out into a place that is bigger. But that being said, since moving out of home, I have had to rely on audiobooks as well because I subscribe to Scribd and I make the most of my subscription. I usually start books and don't finish them sometimes, but it's a good way to try out some books out. I do heavily rely on Scribd. I would say my TBR also consists of ebooks. It mostly consists of print books considering how much I used to buy. And the physical books I have actually determine what books I will read and what books I will prioritize. But I don't hesitate in listening to audiobooks, and if I read an ebook, it's usually a graphic novel ebook because graphic novels in physical form are pretty expensive. Question number 3 is, how do you determine which book to read next? My answer to that is simply mood. I am 100% a mood reader. That's why I do not usually commit to buddy reads, and if I do commit to a buddy read, the person has to be super patient with me because I'm probably never gonna get to it. The only person that I tend to really commit buddy reads to is Camillo. He knows I'm not gonna get to it straight away, and he's probably never gonna get to it straight away, so we're good. That was a tangent. It's mostly mood. I am definitely a mood reader. I definitely have to choose what I read at specific times, and in fact, 40% of the books that I've read this year have been self-help books. I'm talking about, like, you know, 2 out of 5. But still, my reading mood fluctuates very often. It only comes down to mood now. It's not pressure anymore. It's not anticipation or hype anymore. Sometimes it is, then I will still get to it later if I'm in the mood to anticipate something and want to read it. That is usually my method. Of course, I'm thinking of reading Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare because I love Cassandra Clare's works, but at the same time, I feel like prioritizing another book right now and reading another book instead of that. That being said, I actually need to buy that book pretty soon. See? I'm not determined by excitement, I'm determined by mood. Question number 4 is, which book has been on your TBR for the longest? I did some research on my Goodreads. Can't really pick out of the hundreds of books that I already own, but I ended up picking out the first book on my Goodreads. And that, my friends, is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I really did want to read this book before Go Set a Watchman, but then turns out Go Set a Watchman was horrible. I think I just didn't have that much urgency after it. I don't know if I still have the urgency to read To Kill a Mockingbird. I know that a lot of people like it and it really does resonate with them, but there isn't a theme in there that really excites me. The only drive that I had to read it was the fact that a bunch of my friends liked it and it was one of their favorite classics. That's the only drive I had to read it. I guess if I hear a little bit more about To Kill a Mockingbird and its synopsis, I might have the inclination to pick it up, but at the moment I don't. Alright, the next prompt is a book I recently added to my TBR. And I mentioned this in my last video. It is very controversial. Serpent Dove by Shelby. Do people pronounce it as Mahurin or Murrin or Mayurin? I don't know. I haven't watched BookTube in a very long time, so I'm just gonna go with Mahurin. I talk about this in my previous video, which I actually filmed yesterday, fun fact, but it's probably gonna go up a week later, so so I added this book to my TBR mostly because I'm curious, and I know a lot of people went into it with hype and high expectation, and half the people I've seen on BookTube absolutely despise this book. Maybe even not half, maybe most of the people who I follow and I trust do not like this book, and yet my BookTube bestie loves this book. I don't know who to trust here. That's a big reason why I have so much curiosity and I really want to read it for myself. I do mention it in my last video that I might like it, but I do also have to acknowledge I understand if there are toxic themes in here, and I understand if people want me to stay away from it because of that. I don't know the extent of the toxicity because I haven't actually listened or read any reviews. I've just seen review titles of people who I trust and them saying how much this book is trash. However, I'm in such a mood to read it and I don't know why. I have no idea what this book is about. I know the symbolism of the title and the cover because, you know, serpent bad, dove good. Honestly, the title itself is cheesy as frick, I'm just saying, but I am very curious. It has very polarizing themes, it has divided an audience, and it's kind of similar to Akamath. Is that also why people hated it? Because they expected it to be similar to Akamath, but it wasn't? Or was it too much like Akamath to the point that people hated it? I don't know. The next prompt is a book on your TBR strictly because of its beautiful cover. I have 2 here. This first one is kind of because of its cover. Actually, it's mostly because of its cover because I think I bought it for another reason before, but honestly now it's mostly because of its cover because I don't tend to read too much contemporary anymore. That, my friends, is Autoboyography by Christina Lauren. I'm obsessed with this cover. It is beautiful. I just don't read contemporary that much anymore. There are some contemporary novels that I'm planning to get rid of only because I know that I'm never gonna get to them, and I think somebody who is a contemporary lover deserves to have them over me. This cover is just amazing. I really love this color palette so much, and I really love the sketchy look of this book. I know that this book has to do with writing classes, and it also has to do with Mormonism as well. There's some fascinating themes in here that I would really love to read and I would love to discover, but at the very same time, it's not the first book I want to pick up. It's a book that I want to look at and admire every single day because of how beautiful it is, but it's not a book that I want to pick up straight away, you know? That being said, another book that is in a very similar boat to Autoboyography is The Animators by Kayla Ray Whitaker. I think I'd be even more inclined to pick this book up because I'm dating a 3D animator and I want to know a little bit more about his field and kind of see what it's like to be in one of those classes. Apparently this takes place in a university and it follows a female animator and how the industry is kind of sexist and stuff. That's all that I've really heard about it, but this cover really intrigued me. I love this cover so much. Not only that, I love the underneath as well. It looks like TV fuzz, guys. TV fuzz. That is just amazing. I didn't even know purchasing this book that this is what the naked book looked like. If I would have known, I would have bought it sooner. It's literally on my TBR because of how beautiful it is. And you'd think that I'd be even more inclined to read it now because I'm dating a 3D animation student, but I just mostly admire it because of its cover. The next prompt is a book on your TBR you never plan on reading. Since leaving home, I have completely changed my mind on a book, and in fact, this book has been the center of a lot of people's YouTube content lately. That, my friends, is Adolescence by Gabby Hanna. I purchased this book after hearing Gabby Hanna speak at VidCon 2017 at the creator keynote, and honestly what she talked about really touched my heart. I really felt for her story. I felt like at the time it really did impact me, and it definitely impacted the way I felt about her. But I don't want to give my full opinion or spill the full tea, but I do have to say she is not somebody that I want to support anymore for multiple reasons that are out there on the internet that I'm probably not gonna talk about right now. I personally do not support Gabby Hanna anymore, but at one point I did. I didn't support her because I liked her content, because I never really watched her content, but was a bit emotionally manipulated by her. A lot of people have been on the internet, so that's understandable. That being said, I purchased her poetry collection because I love modern poetry. And it's funny because I actually had a strict policy against purchasing YouTuber books, especially after reading Children of Eden by Joey Graceffa. I could not stand that book. So I purchased this book, thinking because I was so moved and impacted by her story, this book would have some certain substance to it. But no, there are many videos on YouTube talking about how this book does not have substance to it. So I'm not gonna read it, not just because it's literally afterthoughts after doing simple mundane things rather than actual modern poetry, but not only that, I just don't support her as a person anymore, and I kind of regret giving her my money. And I do understand if there are people who are watching me who do like Gabby Hanna's videos and still support her no matter what. And I could say that this is just my personal opinion, but also this is an opinion of many people, considering that there are many receipts on the internet proving that she is a very manipulative person. But if you do support her, and if you were saddened by what I've talked about today, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, but I can't support Gabby Hanna. The next prompt that I'm going to talk about is an unpublished book that I'm excited for. As I am talking, Chain of Gold has been published. It was published last week. I can't talk about A Chain of Gold, and I'm not keeping up with too many new releases, honestly. I'd have to say Veronica Roth's next book. Shed, if you're watching me, please send it to me. Yeah, I'd say Veronica Roth's next book I'm pretty much really anticipating.
I am editing this video right now, and I just realized The Chosen Ones is coming out in like 2 or 3 weeks time. Like, how did I not know this? How?
It has to do with the Chosen One trope. That's all I pretty much know about it, other than the fact that it's a Veronica Roth book. I don't know. I really trust her writing. I love how she writes her characters, and I really love how she writes her plots. So I'm definitely really anticipating her book. But that's pretty much it. For the next prompt, I gotta be talking about a book I have on my TBR everybody has read but myself. I have two for this one. The first one I'm gonna be talking about is The Puppy War by R.F. Kuang. I remember when everybody was talking about this on Book Twitter, and I ended up purchasing it out of pressure. At least I bought this hardback for 20 bucks because it's actually worth 50. Everyone was talking about it. I felt the pressure to buy it, even though I'm not completely interested in it. High fantasy isn't fully my genre yet. I'm still somewhat into high fantasy. Like, I absolutely really love the Nevernight Chronicle. And I also love The Witcher. That being said, The Puppy War is a different situation where I kind of felt pressure to buy it because everyone's talking about it. I might like it. I hope that eventually I'll have confidence I will like it. And the next book everyone has read but me, I mean, when I'm talking book, I mean book series, would be The Remnant Chronicles, aka even the first book, The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. Here's the tragic thing. I love script, but sometimes they lose the rights to their audiobooks. They lost the rights to The Remnant Chronicles. And so I started this book, and then they eventually lost the rights to the audiobooks, and it was tragic. I was devastated. That all being said, I still want to read it, but I almost fully immersed myself in it. But script had to do that. You didn't have to cut me off. And the next prompt I gotta answer is a book on your TBR that everyone recommends to you. And I'd have to say pretty much all of Brandon Sanderson's books that I have not read. See, here's the thing. I read the first Mistborn Trilogy, and I wasn't a big fan. It's a very unpopular opinion. I don't even remember half the things that happened in there. I probably need to read it in a different way. Maybe listen to an interactive audiobook or something like that to be fully immersed and fully interested in this world, but I wasn't really that interested. I don't know if I'm interested in reading the rest of his books, or at least in the Cosmere universe, but I'm willing to still give a shot. I'm planning to read the second trilogy in the Mistborn series. I just need to probably get those from home so I can put them onto my shelf and dedicate time to them. First Mistborn Trilogy was a bit too hard to get through for me personally. However, the Reckoners Trilogy from him is one of my favorite series ever. I'm actually surprised that I didn't take them with me, but I don't have that much space, so that's the case. I cry every time. And so I do want to get to Skyward. That's another TBR book that everybody has read but myself. His works are pretty revolutionary, but it's getting to the point where everybody's recommending them to me, and his works are getting very hyped up. I get a little bit intimidated by that. The next prompt I've got to answer for you guys is a a book on my TBR that I'm dying to read. So I mentioned in my last video, I was reading Scythe and I was terrified of it. I'll have you know that I just finished Scythe and I'm dying to read Thunderhead. Scythe to me was an okay book with an amazing ending. For me, that's like Hunger Games level ending, to the point where something just happens and you're just completely mind blown by it and you're just thinking, what? How was the system cheated like that? I need to know where we can go from here, what the ramifications are for this cheated system. I can't spoil anything. I mean, pretty much everybody has read Scythe at this point, but oh my goodness, if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. That is exactly why I have to get to Thunderhead. And the final question will be, how many books are on your Goodreads shelf? I checked my Goodreads shelf just before filming this video, and it's currently sitting at 242. But that has definitely changed because I still haven't updated some of the books I've actually read. Not only that, I haven't updated the books that I unhauled since then. Then I also haven't updated it with books that I do want to read and books that I've purchased, even though I haven't purchased as many as I used to frequently. It's gonna be very interesting to see where that number is gonna be once I do my update. I guess that's where it's at the moment, 242. That's not bad compared to how much I've actually read on Goodreads, which is like 600 plus. I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you want to purchase any of the books that I mentioned in this video today, all the Book Depository purchase links will be down in the description, so you can check them out, you can purchase them, and you can help me out by doing so. And I also have social medias. I'm at G-Swizzel Books on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/G-Swizzle. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.